Hello everyone. I would like to talk about the amazing possibility of how the world can change in many ways. You see, guys, we have let ourselves be free in some areas, and in some areas we have let ourselves to be a bit obscured, I guess, in a sense. There are things blocking our own vision that's based on our own carelessness. And so back in the day in Zen, they had this thing where they called it mindfulness, where you would be attentive to every move. In other words, when you drank, you were aware, you were constantly present, and you can experience many different moments of view. You see, when you have the creator's brush, you are simply always creating. And so every moment can be a creation. But at the same time, it is you who is, in a sense, integratively and in a sense silently and stillnessly becoming aware of your greatest motion, of your greatest move. And what is the greatest move is to actually be observant of the story sense of ourselves and realize that we are aware of it. And so we're going to work from this state of a very compassionate self-awareness. And so we're going to harmonize ourselves. We're going to understand that you don't need shaky stories in your mind. And so it is okay to be playful. Embrace the spirit of playfulness. At the same time, understand that you can be the serious person and you could still be playing. In other words, what is playfulness is pretty much what is found at the end of art. It is an allowance for all life to be in any other way it chooses to. In other words, free will is truly a divine gift. And it is divine attention. Because what is freely willing will freely become what it seeks. Life is about principles. And as one becomes aware of these principles, there's a sense of navigation through their sense of memory and recollection, in which you realize it's not about how much you cared each temporal image, how much you cared for each temporal image, but it's more as if seeing that through these changes, there's something being understood. What is the value if I told you of your life? And you would ask me, if you were wise in a sense, and I'm not judging, but if you were, you would say, what do you mean by life? And that's when I wouldn't be able to speak. Because you see, it is self-reflective. It is based on how we perceive the condition that we feel we're conditioned in this way. In other words, we are truly the creators of our subtler realms, which are our thoughts, which can duplicate what it is here. In other words, I can look at that tree and I can imagine another tree. But where is the forest? And you see that the forest is actually in the moment. And the fact that the moment holds all of it. So mankind shouldn't waste its time being confused in its complexity when there are simple answers and consciousness needs to be acknowledged. And in a sense, I want to say refurbished, but maybe perhaps in a sense refreshed. You must refresh your alertness and awareness to life every morning. You must wake up to life with an excitement to your day. And when that is happening, you will be guided towards the healthiest path, because the healthiest path is giving you the greatest experience. And the greatest experience means, in a sense, greater senses of change. We're understanding life changes. And in a sense, it does. So, if you were to sit down with yourself and ask yourself for your greatest story, what would it be? And tell me after you've said it, or you found it, or you think you thought it, or you didn't even have one, or whatever, you realize that it all comes to the moment. In the fact that the moment, find the origin of your conception points, and that means find the duality that is defining all other dualities. And hence realize that life lives in many ways. And when I say in many ways, it doesn't mean in many life forms, it means in many dimensions, in many points of view, there is livelihood. And so one realizes the light that they are when they experience life as themselves. A lot of ancient poets and sacred hymns have said the sun gave its light. They spoke so beautifully and poetically about how life was made from the light. And so I believe a very successful life is one where there's in so much light, there's a beauty of life to the degree that you're not caught in the dark. Because you don't want confusion, you want expansion through a self-aware presence. You see, life is fantastically visualized. And you must visualize an experience to even be aware of its reality. And so the origin of that is a flow. So in other words, a lot of man's knowledge is based on different levels of consciousness. And so it's not the same knowledge. In other words, some things that experience teaches you are not the same that, let's say, your parents teach you. Intelligence is found to be artificial and then broken and then recognized in a sense that intelligence is able. And because intelligence is able, so are you, and so is everyone. And so if people in this reality realize co-creation is a natural process, there will be just one smile, and in a sense, one breath, and in a sense, the continuation of all that is through tranquility. Bring your mind to peace, and there shall be no broken pieces. Let yourself see through your ideas and see the beauty in a transparent self, because you're always learning, you're always seeing your greater view. To see your greater view, guys, means that if you were caught here and you had one more view in life you wanted to see, what would it be? And so you realize it would be to know more about life, because it's fascinating. There's a lot of confusion in humanity. In other words, we've just been thrown here in this confusion, which is fantastically organized, but it's still confused. We see that we are, in a sense, molding reality for those who are to come. So every person is passing down a torch, and that torch is the way they live, the way they alive, the life they live. Your story is important to yourself to be the clearest, but to others, the value of your story is not relevant to you. In other words, you're simply the storyteller. You're simply someone who's alive here doing things. Give. You do not need explanations for correct action. You need knowing and a sense of harmonious certainty to guide your action. And that sense of certainty has to be selfless for your experience to amplify. In other words, you have been selfish. I mean, God, you get tired of selling fish after some time, of doing it. So stop being selfish, in a sense. And you need to kind of see that your path is very easily found by you, but very hardly found if you ask someone else for your path. Remember, if you ask yourself, if you're honest with yourself and you ask yourself where you're supposed to go, you will know. That sense of knowing will guide you. But if you ask someone else, you are becoming another real thing in their projection. You are a self-aware being. You are that which is even able to conceive. So do not be worried about the conception. You're the conceiver. You're the one who's looking. And the present moment needs to be observed. It doesn't need to be believed in. It doesn't need to be made into a religion. It needs to be communicated as simply as water and food and air is communicated to people who don't have it. We are a kind race. We are one in which compassion is innately developing. There are good beings here. And if we make too many bad ones, if we start imagining too many fears, humanity will think it's confused because it doesn't know what to do. In a chaotic world, when you decide to create an organization, you need to be able to confront the chaos in which it came from. So to be honest with you guys, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm not a monk, I'm not a guru, I have my own experiences, and this is one of them. And I experienced that you must be able to mentally confront your chaos. And you must be able to mentally confront the opposite of the chaos. In other words, you need to be able to walk through both hell and heaven to realize that you're walking somewhere else. Our knowing is simply how we are rooted in a sense of harmonious adjustment, I guess. And you just kind of know, guys. Knowing is not something I could really explain. I mean, even if I've done, I think I've done a good job on explaining knowing. But I want to tell you, it amplifies. So, in other words, what you're asking me, when you're asking me, I'm trying to explain a dynamic state of being to you guys, to understand actually you are the being that is able to have both dynamic and static experience. What does that mean? That means a static experience is one where you're just seeing reality without trying. And then there's one of seeing reality with trying. But when you don't see reality with trying, you see it's because of a meaning. It's because of purpose. In other words, when you look at the life around you, your action is directed by how real value is for you of everything, of the moment. The moment is invaluable. There's a sense of knowing that once it finds you, you'll know it. God. It's crazy. Sometimes these concepts I talk about, I find like the only way you can talk about it is through riddles. It's like not even riddles. It's like you can't talk about it directly because it's multi-contexted, I guess. The expansion of life is an immediate and instant awareness. Find it beyond any voice, transcend any idea. We watch TV, don't let your inspiration even trap you, because I noticed that my heroes became toys for me the way they were promoted. And you don't need toys, you don't need distractions. We need to do right action. And when you think about what is right action, well, right action is to know what is right based on knowing what is wrong. So what that means is that for you to obtain the maturity or the thickness of the bark, you must go through many springs and summers. So your life is going based on your insight, because you can access information that can advance your process, and it has nothing to do with, in a sense, your image, your idea. It is simply your knowing. In other words, like, it's very hard for me to explain to a leaf how the intelligence of the river is working. Or similarly, it's very hard for me to explain to a drop how the ocean is it, I mean, God damn it, it's as if like drops have become scientists and they're rejecting the stream. And the ocean is just right there. And some drops are like, why are we rejecting the stream, man? And the drops are like, because we don't want to move. We believe we're just here. Not even here in a very conscious way, just here in an idea. We're just this, Can you just imagine? When man is trying to find one truth for things, he's trying to find something he cannot attain, because man is a changing process. It's, in a sense, the knowing that is more important. So what I saw is that Eastern mysticism and its full grasp, in other words, if you suddenly became very observant of meditation, you realize that through it there is an air of possibility to re-experience the moment. And I don't know what that means, is because many people believe in everything they're seeing more than they are the awareness of their moment. And you see, sometimes you see there is life, and how is it beautifully placed? In other words, when you observe beauty, what is beautiful? And you see, beauty is simply a new way of looking at things. So when you're always looking at things anew, you're always updated, you're always there, you're always present, you're always respectful. Guys, certain habits that one brings in regards to exploring their nature is that, I want to say it like this, every kid has a toolbox. And nobody tells you about this toolbox. Your parents could say, son, you may have a toolbox, but you must go find the toolbox. And, this kind of thing goes on. And you see that toolboxes are present with people's life. What does that mean? That means when you're going through an experience, your alertness to all that is happening is amplified to a degree where your senses cannot contain it, but can, in a sense, be present through. When voices are drawn like swords, we must not put our hands over our ears, but to allow the silence of existence to respond to that which has defined life too thickly. You see, guys, all I can say is that look towards nature, look towards life. I mean, if you like the movie Gladiator would always put his hand down and pick up the dirt before he fought, because he knew that if he died, he would be becoming dirt. He would be that, in a sense. But at the same time, he had this also inner knowing that he was beyond the humane. In other words, when you are cultivating nobility, honesty, compassionate, being humble, you are, in a sense, becoming more aware of the life pattern you're on and seeing how that pattern is progressing through deeper states of your own being. In other words, the search for life is no longer, in the bookstore, in the library, in the monastery, in the temple, in India, in the idea, in the philosophy, in the moment, in the image. It is in the most profound nothingness that you shall see the true value of somethingness, guys. And that means that you allow your mind to perceive dissolution, and at the same time, your rebirth, your resurrection, your reconstruction. And it's all an inner type of thing. So, for example, the methodology I have and how I'm maintaining, let's say, my videos at this point is by the same methodology of perhaps the Native Americans who looked at the sky and knew there was something off with the forest, or at the same time worked with an intuition that is present always. So what I speak, I am, but I am also allowing that to change. So my experience of the moment can function between sensitive and subtler, I guess in a sense, atmospheres of my awareness to what is real. So I can play with my awareness of reality, but it's not me playing. It's simply life's playfulness. How can I say? And it's not even shaped. It's not idea, guys. I mean, listen, if you fear anything, you must confront that immediately and you must understand why you fear it. If someone says something and you're like, yo man, are you crazy? Don't you fear death? Well, if you ask them and they're like, no, I don't fear death. I have looked at this life as deep as the stars have shined through our eyes. And in such a talk, there should be an understanding that is not eliminating truth, but integrating. Integration means introducing the separation into the unity that it always was. And trust me, in this reality, we need to be aware of integration. Integration and that concept, if it's explored by you, it will help you always. Every concept has a treasure in it. Every topic, every search, every word has a treasure in it, because it all leads to your own unique view of how substance is, made. Because, guys, there are people in the Western world who are scientists and who, when they look at physical objects, no, they don't see just, you know, just like a chair. They see a chair made of theories and books and hundreds of scripted and experimented notions. And one sees that if you're always painting with the same brush with different colors, you'll confuse the colors. So life needs to be about a gentle quietude where you're just like, gosh, I've been living so much. Now I need to just relax for a bit. And you breathe a couple times and you just relax and you just become playful. You don't think, you just look around yourself and you're like, wow, life. And you just look at it. And you look at nature and you see if you're naturally without any ideas indoors just looking at things, you'd be like, wow, I really want to be outside right now. And you would go outside. And when you go outside, you see that plant life. You see that life is always teaching us. In other words, we are observing more about our environment, and our analysis of it must be with the analysis of a certain flow, because the drops are becoming part of the stream when you are becoming observant of the sound.